Here's an example of what a finished collage image could look like, and this is the image that I'll be showing you how to put together. But you can see within this image there are multiple photos that are put together into the same image. Within each of these pictures, if I zoom in, you can kind of see how they're cropped. So when you go to take your pictures, make sure that they are up close on the different facial features, so you are able to piece those back together similar to a puzzle. Remember as well that you'll need to include or incorporate at least 10 pictures into your image, so you want to stay away from doing just 5 or 6, but really think through the placement of these pictures. Try to add as many as you can, and then you can start to narrow down or take away ones that don't work well. But to get started, you're going to open a blank document. So I'm going to go to File, New. So instead of opening a picture, I'm creating a new document this time. So File, New. I'm going to set up the image size. So I'm going to change where it says pixels to inches. And I would just use a regular paper size to get started, unless you want to work with maybe a square or something like that. But for now, I'm just going to do an 8.5 by 11, which is just a regular paper size. Up to you if you want it vertical or horizontal. Make sure your resolution, though, is set to 300. That way you have a good quality sized image. And then I'm going to hit create, and it's going to open a new document. And from here, I'm just going to begin placing my pictures. So I'm going to go to File, Place Linked, and this is where you'll find the images that you're going to work with. So mine are under collage example, so I have a bunch of different pictures here to choose from. With your photos, you may or may not have taken them in order. Some are going to be further back, some are going to be closer together, but I would start just kind of piecing together the image like a puzzle. So I'm going to start with just a picture that I know is part of the hair, so this is going to go off to the side. I'm going to shrink it a little bit and move it over, and then I'll hit the little check button, and you'll notice in the layers panel it adds that first image. Then I'm going to go back to File and Place Linked to begin placing my second image. And I'm just going to go through and try to line these up. Portraits are definitely trickier than other styles of images to work with for the collage, because there is no set place for those pictures to go. So it's just a lot of placing all of the pictures first and then moving things around, changing up the layer order. But you do have to get a good amount of pictures placed before you can really do much with it. If you do have pictures that are taken further back, so a lot of mine are super up close, but if yours are taken further back, what you can do is crop those individual images. So on the layers panel, I have this one selected that I want to crop. And then on the left, I'm going to choose this little rectangle tool. And I will select the part of the photo that I want to crop. So I'll just crop a little bit of the forehead there. And then the last step is adding a mask to it. So in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, I'm going to add a mask, which masks off or gets rid of everything around the outside of the image. So if I hit Command Z, again, hit the mask, and it will get rid of everything on the outside of those dashed lines. So I will mask that off. And then just go through and continue placing your pictures. The one thing I would be careful of if you are cropping your images at all is cropping them too close. So be careful not to crop just one eye really up close. Let me give you an example. I'm going to place one of these pictures that has an eye, and I'm going to shrink it, kind of line it up in the general area where the eye would be. So again, I'm not putting a picture of an eye way down in the bottom left-hand corner. I know what my original picture looks like, so I'm keeping that up in the upper left-hand corner where this left eye would go. But as far as cropping, stay away from cropping just the individual eye or just one individual facial feature. So if I cropped it like this, as I'm working, it's going to be a lot harder to kind of place this eye, making it fit the image. So try not to crop too close. If you do crop part of the facial feature like this, make sure that you have something or some part of the background, or maybe part of the nose, part of the eyebrow. So again, it's not just really close on the eyebrow. I have the eyebrow and the eye in the same image. But again, I'm just going to continue going through and placing these photos. And then we'll come back and look at moving around the placement, changing up the size a little bit. So I'm going to pause this, add a little bit more, and then we'll look at the placement. I have a lot more added to my image, and this is far from a finished collage. So there's still a lot that needs to be done to edit the placement and edit the sizing of the images to make everything feel more complete. Again, here's the example of the finished collage. So everything is lined up and you can see what the original picture or the direction that this person's looking and what they're doing still kind of fits as a whole together. Whereas what I have here is just my images randomly placed. I haven't thought about how everything fits together or the placement of things yet. So very important to spend your time thinking about the placement of your photos for the collage. But right now I'm going to focus on the eyes first. I have all these eyes in the general area where they should go, but I do want them a little bit closer together so it doesn't look like it's a person with 3 separate eyes. So within these, I can maybe have a little bit more overlap. I can also play around with the order of the eyes, so I might want this one to go on top of my image in the background. So I'm just going to slide this photo all the way up to the top layer and think about the placement there. So this was actually the left eye in the image, so I can maybe try to line things up a little bit better that way. So I have just this one image off to the side, and then maybe this image I can bring to the front again and have that stand out. So here's the 2 main eyes that are in my image. So I'm going to make those 2, for the most part, line up. One thing to stay away from is having different sizes of the facial features. So if this eye is this size, I wouldn't want the right eye to be huge. So I wouldn't want this to look like the image has a giant eye, or I wouldn't want to make the nose or the lips too big within the image. Otherwise it's going to feel out of proportion and you're not going to be able to really connect the image as a whole. So try to keep everything a consistent size as you're working. And now that I have these 2 eyes kind of lined up, I'm going to look at the placement of the nose. So maybe some of these can get shifted down a little bit. These lips feel a little bit small, so I can make those a little bit bigger. This picture is almost overlapping a little bit too much of what I have going on. So if I click on this image, I'm able to find the layer that's highlighted in the layers panel to move it around. So I'm just going to slide this down to the bottom and put that more in the background behind everything. And these lips I can kind of move over to more of where they would actually be. And then find another lip picture and just, again, I'm not going to line it up completely so that it matches and looks like there's one photo. I still want it to look like there's some overlap. So I might move this little piece of the lips up a little bit. And then with the hair, I can kind of slide some of these images around. Here's another eye and eyebrow. Maybe I can show part of this eye coming behind my other image as well. So again, a lot of this is just playing around with the placement, playing around with the size of things, maybe crop certain images. You might have some photos that you can hide. So you might not use all of the photos that you added at first, and that's okay. So maybe this nose here I can hide or move. I might hit Command T to make it a little bit bigger to blend in with what I have. So I can move that off to the side a little bit. But again, it's just moving things around. There's no set place for your pictures, so it does make it tricky with the portraits. But keep moving things around until you're happy with how it looks. It might help to have a second set of eyes or someone else look at your image to see if there's anything they would do differently or if there's anything that might help with your photos. Once you have everything set up how you want is to make sure you do adjust your levels and curves. So layer, new adjustment layer, levels, curves. It's going to affect every single layer underneath. So just make sure the levels and curves are the very top layer. And that way you can go through and edit, adjust that lighting to make sure that you have the best lighting possible in your overall image. So editing the green. But again, just make sure that that's at the top.